Hi guys, this is gsno.com and I'm here with the review of the Motorola Edge Plus. So after reviewing and playing with the Motorola Edge, the super high mid-range one, we're here with the flagship. So it's been 4 years ever since Motorola launched its last flagship, arguably the Moto Z. And here we are, this time with a fully spec'd handset, which is quite narrow, has a 108 megapixel camera, quad camera setup at the backside, and also, as you can see, a very curved screen. Now the price is rather big, $1,200, and let's first talk about the design. So we're not dealing with a phone that has IP68 certification, it has some water repellent properties. Of course, at the front side there's glass, which as you can see is very curved to the sides. At the back side also glass with a frosted look and a color that goes from gray to blue and vice versa. This is glass actually, even though it may look like metal in some shades. It can draw a bit of fingerprints, but it's gorgeous looking. It's a narrow phone, I'll say it again, and even though it's long, the grip and general ergonomics are helped by the narrowness of the device. It's well built, it has a metal frame between the glass sheets, and if you want measurements, it's rather beefy, a 9.6 mm in thickness and 203 grams in weight. I also find that the buttons on the side are a bit too slim and narrow for my liking. The facade, I have to say, is gorgeous for this handset. The backside, well, not so much, and it wobbles a lot on a flat surface. It's a very wobbly device on a flat surface. Okay, getting past that, we're going to move forward and let's talk about the display. So you can see the screen right here. We're dealing here with an OLED 6.7 inch, rather large, resolution 2340 over 1080 pixels, also 90 Hz refresh rate, which should keep things pretty fluid, plus HDR10 plus support. Now the actual viewing experience will be shown in an instance. We have the usual test video here to show you. It's a clip that offers both HDR support, 60 frames per second and all that jazz. So here we go. Now the first thing, I have to say that the punch hole for the selfie camera doesn't bother me. So there's that. The colors have a pretty wide range and they're quite vivid. The brightness is, I would say, solid. Not record-breaking, but solid. We also have pretty deep blacks, nice contrast in the full sunlight, and wide view angles. Okay, we're done with that aspect. The pixels of the screen, in case you were wondering, have a pentile matrix arrangement, and we also did a brightness test with a lux meter, and we achieved, let's see here, 482 lux units. It's a good result. Anything past 400 passes our test. It goes past the Galaxy S20 series, it goes past the Galaxy S20 Ultra, for example, and scores below the Motorola Edge, believe it or not. It's just a few lux below the Motorola Edge, the lower spec unit, and also below several other devices, like for example the iPhone 11 or the OnePlus 8, and as you can see, other handsets out there, including some flagships. Okay, so we're done with the brightness. If you want to tweak your preferences and options further, you got the settings area. You go here in the display section and you're going to have to be able to play with, let's see, so there's a refresh rate. As I said again, you can use the 90 Hz one or the 60 Hz one. You can play with the colors, you can find them more natural, boosted or saturated. Frankly speaking, saturated have got to be the best. Okay, and well, that's about it. Aside from that, there is the usual font size, display size, and you know the drill by now. Okay, so I'm happy with the screen. Not the brightest in the world, no record breaker, but it does its job, and it's quite immersive as it continues towards the edges, feeling like a totally edge-to-edge affair. On the CPU front, we're getting a bit of a powerhouse here. Let's see what we got. So the CPU is a Qualcomm Snapdragon 865, the most powerful out there, 7 nanometer plus, 2.8 gigahertz, accompanied by quite the generous amount of RAM, which is 12 gigs of RAM. We have here LPDDR5 even, 256 gigabytes of storage, UFS 3.0, so the performance is ensured, no micro SD, and also luckily no trace of lag, no matter what we ran, what we played. Even a game like Arc Mobile, well, it worked like a charm. Even with the high-end graphics, had zero problems here with lag, so you will definitely not encounter lag on the phone. Okay, so let me exit this area and go into the benchmark department so you can see how we're doing. Okay, so in the benchmark department, I'm going to start with Antutu 8. As you can see, we're doing fine. We're placed on the third spot here, only getting beaten by a gaming phone, Nubia Red Magic 5G, and the Xiaomi Mi 10 Pro. We're above the OnePlus 8, Oppo Find X2, and Galaxy S20 Plus, all of them heavy hitters this year, also above the Huawei P40 Pro. When it comes to the famous Geekbench 5, we're actually placed higher, second place, following the iPhone 11 Pro Max, which still holds its own, surpassing the iPhone 11, OnePlus 8, and a few other handsets, including the Galaxy S20 series. When it comes to gaming, there's no better authority than 3D Mark's Slingshot Extreme ES 3.1. The best result is here, as you can see, it tops the list with a pretty high score, surpassing by quite a bit the following models like the OnePlus 8, Oppo Find X2, and Nubia Red Magic 5G. So it's quite the powerhouse, but at what cost? So, temperature. The temperature in benchmarks makes it pretty clear that the phone really goes up a notch in performance, sacrificing some of the temperature, 40.1 degrees Celsius. So the price of performance is heat in this case. However, in games it's quite okay, 34.3 degrees Celsius, only goes to 40 in benchmarks, and that's about it. Okay, so we're done with the performance and the temperature. Let's talk about the battery. The Motorola Edge itself had a kick-ass battery, pretty solid. This is actually bigger, 5000 mAh, 18 watt fast charge on a wire, 15 watt wireless charging. Also reverse charge, if you put a device on the back of the phone, it should get juiced up pretty fast. We did some battery tests. We start off with the video playback, and the result is quite good, but not a record breaker, 17 hours and 59 minutes. It goes past the Xiaomi Mi 10 Pro and Galaxy S20 Plus. It stays below the Motorola Edge, believe it or not, by 14 minutes, also below the Huawei P40 Pro and the OnePlus 8. Now when it comes to continuous usage, another good result, 14 hours and 38 minutes, above the Huawei P40 Pro, Galaxy S20 Plus, and the Oppo Find X2. Now, surprisingly, once again, this phone is below the Motorola Edge by 1 hour. I know it's a bit of a surprise. Anyway, it's also below the Xiaomi Mi 10 Pro and the OnePlus 8. And the bummer piece of news comes from the charging department. It takes a full 2 hours and 34 minutes to fully juice up the phone. That's definitely not a fast charging. After 30 minutes you're at 30%, after 1 hour you're 68%. I've seen so much better on the Oppo phones with 65 watt charging. Anyways, you also have some battery saver features in case you were wondering. On the acoustics front, I'm going to start with the good news. So there's the audio jack at the top, and we got stereo speakers. This is the bottom one. This is the top one. It's basically the earpiece, and I'm going to resort to some copyright-free music to enjoy the power of the speakers. Okay, so you just saw me covering the bottom speaker and also covering the top speaker. That's for a good reason. It's because of the fact that the bottom speaker offers you the bass and the top speaker offers you the, well, treble and the highs. And, well, there's bass only at the bottom, and even so, it's, I would say, a medium level experience. The speakers are reasonably loud, the voices are lovely, but the stereo experience not that good. The bottom speaker is too powerful compared to the top speaker. They don't compensate in equal manner. Other than that, moderate bass. That's what I could say here. The headphones bundled with the phone, you saw them in the unboxing. They're okay. They're not record breakers. They're about on par with what Samsung is offering you, minus, of course, the lack of AKG tuning. This is the power of the volume, measured with an acoustic sample. At the bottom 92.7 decibels, at the top 85.2 decibels. There's quite the difference between the top speaker and bottom speaker, which you're going to feel, so not an excellent stereophony. Now, if you take into account the bottom speaker, we're definitely surpassing the Galaxy S20 series, S20 and S20 Ultra, but we're staying below the Huawei P40 Pro. In the gaming, we had 97.1 decibels. To be honest, I've seen higher than that on quite a few phones. Usually 100 decibels is our, I would say, typical benchmark. We're superior to the Galaxy Note 10 Plus, as you can see here. Okay. So we managed to beat the Galaxy Note 10 Plus and also the Asus ROG Phone 2, but there are quite a few phones above our model, like Huawei P40 Pro, Galaxy S20 and the OnePlus 8. Okay, and by the way, we also have some special customizations. You're going to find them in the Acoustics section. So if you go to the sound, moto audio, there are these modes which you can tweak: auto, music, movie and game, and maybe improve your experience a little bit. Okay, so I think we're done with the speakers, with the acoustics. Let's talk about the camera. First of all, up front in a punch hole, here in the top left corner, 25 megapixel camera with fixed focus, which is a bad thing. You're going to see that in a minute. On the back side, a more intricate setup. So this is the dual LED flash. This is the 108 megapixel camera with optical image stabilization. The same Samsung ISOCELL sensor from the Xiaomi Mi 10 Pro that combines 4 pixels in one. Then we have the telephoto camera and the ultrawide camera. The telephoto one does 3x optical zoom. The ultrawide one, once again, telephoto is an 8 megapixel 3x optical zoom camera, and the ultrawide is a 16 megapixel camera, which from what I know helps you with the macro. And then there's a time of flight bokeh here. There's a 3D sensor right above the flash area. This phone has a pretty interesting, I would say, feature. It films in 6K. Xiaomi Mi 10 Pro filmed in 8K, but it was upscaled from 6K, so this is actually an honest rendition of the video. Oddly enough, it doesn't shoot 4K video at 60 frames, just 30. I don't know why, ask Motorola. Okay, so I'm going to unlock it and check this out. We have quite a few shots here. Okay, so I've taken quite a few pictures using this device. And one thing that I know for sure is that its selfies are horrible. I don't use that word a lot, and it's exactly the same problem I had with the Motorola Edge. It simply cannot focus properly. I've seen this problem on the Oppo Reno 3 Pro 5G. I've seen it also on the LG Velvet, and I'm seeing it here. I don't know what's wrong with these phones nowadays. On this small screen you may not be able to notice the problem, but on a big screen you definitely would. The background behind me is always in better focus than my face. The details on my face aren't good. It's a 25 megapixel camera, I expected more. Even though it takes shots which combine pixels, I wanted more from this camera. From the, let's say, 30 photos I've taken, it's a miracle if 3 of them are viable to post on social media. It's that bad. So it tends to focus always on the background, on the trees, on the objects, not on my face, which definitely reduces the details. So that was the bad news. Let's talk about the good news. So first of all, it gets some brilliant colors. The camera can handle its own pretty well. It renders the colors in a pretty pleasing manner, doesn't exaggerate. The focus is also rather solid, although if you're gunning for close-ups and macros, you're going to have to pull off a few attempts. Now, some of these shots here have 108 megapixels and you can really go in depth and you can enjoy the details. I have to say I'm pretty happy with that. If you're going for details, you'll definitely be happy with the results. So I'm happy with the... That was odd. I'm happy with the colors, I'm happy with the details, but the focus is a bit hit and miss if you're really a fan of close-ups. Didn't forget about the ultra-wide camera, so regular shot. By the way, pretty nice way of rendering the sky, unlike the Galaxy S20 Plus. This is the ultra-wide shot, which has decided to not spoil the colors, but it also curves parts of the image. Once again, regular shot, ultra-wide shot. As you can see, the trees are a bit curved here. Okay, we have plenty of shots of flowers. Some of them are portrait shots, some of them are macro shots, and they're quite fine, even though there's that thing I mentioned before, that sometimes they may be a bit hit and miss if you want to take proper macros, because we're lacking actually a macro camera. More will be revealed in the full text review. In the meantime, these beautiful scenarios were caught with the sun dead on, and also the sky is finally well rendered. I would go ahead and put this on par with the quality of the Xiaomi Mi 10 Pro, maybe fighting the Huawei P40 Pro and the Galaxy S20 series, of course without the record-breaking zoom. Speaking of zoom, still I want to show you some zoom shots. This is 3x optical zoom, and we start like this with this church. This is 3x, and it's actually keeping the details quite well. This is 6x, which is actually not bad, and up to 10x you should be happy with the results, even though 10x is a bit noisy. So keep this in mind, on par with the Xiaomi Mi 10 Pro, also maybe the OnePlus 8, but without the zoom. And very poor selfies. Okay, so this is daytime. Let's go to the low light. The Motorola Edge was already kind of good during the low light, kind of, keep that in mind. This is actually solid. It's above the Motorola Edge in quality. Leave aside the ultra-wide capture. As usual, ultra-wide cameras do not perform during the nighttime, but I'm very happy with the zoom and the color calibration, the way the camera handles lights. Oddly enough, when you zoom in, the lights are better handled than by the main camera. That's one impression of mine. I also tried out the night mode, which did wonders at some point. You have a shot here which actually impressed me. Let's see if I can find it. By the way, some problems with the close-ups of flowers during the nighttime. I tried them a lot and wasn't happy with the results. I think this is actually it. This is the dark scenery of an object on the ground, and with the night mode you can actually see what it is. So pretty dark, but then the night mode helps. In general, the shots felt like they were kind of dark compared to other flagships out there, but once again the lights and colors were well handled. And forget about ultra wide. Another shot, and here this is a blurry mess, this lamp, but with the night mode you can actually see that it's blue and it has that shape. So I think that the night mode helps get the best out of the camera, and it's definitely an upgrade from the Motorola Edge. Now let's talk about the videos, and for that I'm going to skip to a whole different app, the MX Player Pro. Okay, so my biggest regret is the fact that we don't have 4K 60 frames per second video, but instead we have 6K, so you may be happy with that. Once again, starting with the bad news, the selfie video are pretty poor, just like the selfie photos. I feel we definitely need a big software upgrade to fix this, maybe a bug fix. I don't know what's wrong. You can probably tell even from here that it looks like 720p or 480p. Definitely not good. Aside from that, I was happy with the focus speed. This is a focus speed test on the foreground and the background. It's definitely Samsung sensor worthy. Okay, and we also have a stabilization test, which means I'm walking around on a set of stairs, and we do have optical image stabilization here, working with the electronic one and doing quite well in that regard. I mean, it's no Huawei P40 Pro or Galaxy S20, but it handles its own. Okay, and if you want more colors, we have this video here. What I actually like about this video is that after catching quite a few clips with strong sunlight, which made them a bit yellow, this is caught in the shade. There were some clouds here, and you can actually feel that. It reminds me of the Huawei Mate 30 Pro, which was the best phone in the world at capturing shades. This is interesting. Of course, a ton of detail in 4K and 6K. Forget about Full HD, which is overexposed and murky, and if you're doing Full HD in 60 frames per second, it's very burnt and overexposed, so forget about that as well. 4K is comparable to what the Huawei P40 Pro and Galaxy S20 series produce. We also have a nifty slow-mo here at some point, maybe a bit burnt, but it triggers a nice effect. And we also have some nighttime videos like this one here. Well, there's nothing to write home about. I mean, they're not exactly bad, but if you start moving a bit, things get flickery and shaky. We're catching a decent amount of light, but I've seen other phones handle low light capture better. Galaxy S20 series comes to mind, Huawei P40 comes to mind, P40 Pro of course. I would say that the zoom here was quite okay, but if you start moving around, you won't be happy with the results. Even though one of the videos shot in 4K towards the end actually impressed me. This is actually not a bad video, if you look at it closely. Yes, there is some flicker, but the way the lights are handled, I mean the light source is quite professional. I would say it's somewhere between the Oppo Find X2 and the Galaxy S20 series and the Huawei P40 Pro. And I think I'm done with the camera. The selfie camera definitely needs a fix, a bug fix, an update, I don't know, something. We're done with the camera once again, and the connectivity side, well, we definitely have an USB-C port at the bottom, which is of the 3.1 variety. We have the audio jack I mentioned, and there's 4G, and there's also 5G if you really want to kick things up. There's Wi-Fi 6 as well, and we also have NFC, GPS, Bluetooth 5.1, GLONASS, BDS, and Galileo. Now the calls were loud and clear as expected from the company who invented the mobile phone. And here we have the speed test results. When it comes to Wi-Fi downloads, 432 megapers downloads is excellent, and Wi-Fi uploads we have 24.9 megapers. In 4G LTE we got as high as 198 megapers in download and 55.5 megapers in upload. Once again, we're doing quite fine. Now, software-wise, there is nothing to insist too much. If you've seen a Motorola handset this year, you know what to expect, but with some tweaks. Okay, so first of all, the experience can be customized. So if you go here, we have this option that's called personalize. You can choose your styles. You can mess around with the font, color, icon shape, and layout. There's the wallpaper section, and there's the home screen layout section. There's the fingerprint animation which you can choose, and honestly most of them are pretty long and they make the process seem long. And speaking of which, this is how the unlock happens. I would say it's quite fast. It's dragged down only by the animation. Aside from that, it's Android 10 in a pretty pure form. I mean, you know the drill. This is the gesture to trigger the multitasking experience, and we're obviously opting for the swipes, not the virtual buttons. This is the drop down area with notifications and quick settings. This is the news section, the useful Google stuff. What else? In the Motorola section you can actually find plenty of things. We have the styles here, we have the fingerprint animation, we have the Moto actions, a collection of gestures with the hand, fast flashlight, quick capture. There's the Moto display, which has the edge touch, edge lights, which light up when the phone is facing down, peak display, depth display, replacements for always on display, and Moto game time, which places gaming buttons here so you can shoot your way through Call of Duty and things like that. So that's that, and you also have this menu here, which I always fail at triggering. It's the edge touch section with shortcuts, which definitely reminds me of a Galaxy S Edge device, or in general Galaxy S device, because they had that for years now. Okay, so I think I covered everything. Of course, there's many settings to go into. They're typical Android 10 stuff: connectivity, apps, battery, sound, privacy, digital well-being, and parental control, and that's about it. I'm happy to report that I didn't find any bloatware here. There are typical apps, so absolutely no bloatware, and Motorola doesn't intrude very much on the experience. So I think we're about done with the software, and let's go to the pros and cons for the verdict. And it's a good idea that we can also show you our website. This is gsm.com. Once again, you don't forget it. So on the pro side, we have a pretty beautiful phone if you look at the facade, and the back side is also polarizing but lovely with a frosted look. So a pretty phone, which is also quite powerful specs wise and benchmark wise. The screen is solid, it's pretty bright and crisp, and the colors are vivid. It's a comfy handset because it's so narrow. It's got very fast connectivity, a rather good battery, solid battery when it comes to the video playback and continuous use. It has an audio jack, which matters for some people nowadays. It has wireless charging, and it's got an Android 10 flavor, which I actually enjoy. Even the Motorola customizations are nice. The main camera is solid during the daytime and the nighttime, and the 4K videos, were they're also rather good. Now, on the con side, we have a smudgy back, no IP68 certification, no real stereophony experience. I mean, the bottom speaker is too powerful compared to the top speaker. The charging is slow. The phone may be a bit too long for some people's hands. There is no 4K video 60 frames per second, and the camera, the front camera itself, could make you not buy the phone. And also, it's very hard to put this handset on a flat surface because it wobbles a lot, and in the long run you may have some problems with the camera. Anyways, that's about it. It's definitely a flagship which has been lacking from Motorola's portfolio for a while. It was definitely needed and warranted for such a big company owned by Lenovo. It's here, and I would say it's an alternative to the Xiaomi Mi 10 Pro and also to the OnePlus 8 and OnePlus 8 Pro maybe. I would say maybe because the zoom doesn't shine as much. Some of the companies out there are putting a lot of emphasis on zoom. Huawei P40 Pro and Galaxy S20 Ultra are definitely better than this zoom wise. The ultra-wide camera is okay, and well, that's about it. We're lacking 4K 60 frames per second. It's a phone that's definitely good if you want to do some gaming in hardcore games like Ark, for example. And you got your Moto game time here, which you can activate and it will not bother you. Okay. So this is Ark, one of the most potent games there is. It looks great, the phone doesn't get overheated. It's an actually playable experience and enjoyable experience. This game is also available on the PC, and nowadays with these powerful phones you cannot even tell which is the PC and which is the mobile phone. So it's a handset that's good for gaming, photos with the main camera, 4K videos, listening to some music and enjoying videos on the screen. The camera setup itself doesn't live to the expectations and doesn't exactly, well, fight with the big models out there. I would place it somewhere between the Oppo Find X2 and maybe the Galaxy S20 Plus. It's somewhere in between there, but with better calibrated colors for the camera. So this is our verdict, and keep in mind it's definitely not a cheap phone at around $1,200. Well, this is it from us. Hope you enjoyed the review of the Motorola Edge Plus, the phone that's placed between the Oppo Find X2 and the Galaxy S20 Plus. Bye bye.